I'm Sanjeev, Sularia, CEO, co-founder for Intelligence Node. We're a big data company, headquartered out of Mumbai, but sort of sales presence across the globe, with offices in New York, London, Singapore, and Dubai. We focus on anything to do with pricing and merchandising pretty much within the retail segment with a couple of SaaS and enterprise tools. Just wanted to run a quick video to introduce us and then introduce the panel itself. What we're trying to focus on is the changing face of retail itself. In the last decade or so, and I think it's been covered rightly and very elaborately through the sessions, sort of the change in retail landscape itself. I think the consumer is changing. The consumer is agnostic of channel, platform, brand agnostic as well. I mean, they want more than just the product out there, more than just the price out there. Experience is becoming a bigger and bigger play. And how do you marry that front end and back end sort of hard retail analytics itself is what we're going to be talking about in the fusion of online, offline retail itself. Here's a quick intro into Intelligence Node.
Being a merchandiser, your days are filled with decisions. Decisions about customers, about competition, and profits. The best decisions come from learning from the past, having good current data, and keeping an eye on coming trends. Introducing Intelligence Node's Pricing Intelligence Suite. Intelligence Node lets you identify inefficiencies, optimize key metrics, and automate execution of data-driven insights. It is a holistic solution that encompasses the process of the entire retail lifecycle. Imagine an environment where you'll never have to go through disparate spreadsheets trying to piece together patterns and trends, where you're always alerted about your competitive ecosystem, where data is visualized and decision-making simplified. Intelligence Node provides a holistic solution that adds value at every stage of the retail lifecycle. Insights from Intelligence Node will help you get better at market watch, design, planning, pricing, inventory management, and selling. Our pricing module is powered by a smart pricing engine that unlocks real-time basket-based pricing promotions and seasonal calendar automation. Our design module brings you current trends, street fashion, and future trends from around the world. Our Market Watch module brings you the relevant market information and competitor information. Our Planogram module helps you with SKU-level inventory forecasting, optimizing the breadth and depth of inventory, right up to assisting with visual merchandising and store layouts. Our supply chain module helps you with allocating inventory and planning reorders, so you never miss out on a sale due to out-of-stock situation or have to write off large chunks of inventory. Our recommendation module helps you with upselling and cross-selling to best optimize for margins and drive repeat purchases. Together, Intelligence Node helps you grow your revenue, grow your profitability, increase your sell-through, and provide your shoppers with an unparalleled customer experience. Because we believe data should propel you forward and not weigh you down. Intelligence Node, a one-stop solution for all your retail analytics needs.
Great. So having done that, I want to move back to the panel itself and why these two gentlemen on my right. So we've been working together with MAP and Home Center trying to solve some of the problems that the new retail changing landscape brings in. And I think we'll cover that through in the panel itself. I think what was really interesting for us amongst all the clients that we work with was emerging markets, right? I mean, they're Indonesia-based and then local sort of Middle East-based retailers. Large, successful businesses where these two gentlemen with extensive experience in Europe came in and took over very successful businesses trying to take them to the new age online shopping itself and digitization of the entire business itself. And I think that's where we see a trend moving, and I think it's been covered through different presentations where the focus, geographies are shrinking, the focus is moving heavily towards listening to the consumer, the focus is moving towards the emerging markets, and I think that's where they lend a great viewpoint on it. That's sort of, I'll pass it on to the two of you. Mederic, if you could start with a brief introduction.
Hi, good afternoon. Mederic Payne, so I'm the CEO of Home Center, so part of the Landmark Group, and I look after all operations here in the Middle East and also work with our teams in India as Home Center. Previously to coming to this region, I was running CEO within Kingfisher PLC in Russia. I also worked across Europe, and notably in brands like B&Q, which some of you will know, and started off in Marks & Spencer. But my journey really started as a retailer in stores. So I really came from shop floor, understood store management, traditional retailing. And as I moved around and understood what was going on, I realized that retailing, as you all know, is a fast pace and it's changing. So my challenge and what I enjoyed coming to the Middle East, and I'm very proud to work here now in this Middle East, is to take that expertise into what I see as a really dynamic market in this region, and to understand how could we actually grow what is an exciting and successful business in the home furnishings. And Home Centre, just to put it into perspective for those who don't know it, is a company that is mainly a furniture, household, and other items around the home. And we cover obviously all the different cultures and nationalities. So we have 39 nationalities within the company, which makes the business a very complex company, dealing in 2 languages obviously, which is English and Arabic.
Good afternoon. My name is Amit Keswani. I head the digital transformation for MAP in Indonesia. MAP is a little-known company outside Indonesia, but we're actually the largest lifestyle retailer with over 2,000 locations. Our business is broken up into department stores. We have close to 20 department stores, including Sogo, Debenhams, Galerías Lafayette. We have a very extensive sports business, where we have a 70% market share of Indonesia in sports with the Asics, Nikes, Reebok, etc. Successful fashion business also with the whole Inditex suite of brands, Mango, Marks & Spencer, Lacoste, Nautica. Very successful food and beverage business driven by Starbucks, Domino's and Burger King, and we also operate a children's business under the Kid Station brand name. It's a complex country. I was brought in to digitize the business. I run both the e-commerce initiatives, which fall under the MAP eMall banner, and MAP Club, which is the loyalty program. Both initiatives launched this year. My background is a lot more in marketing than in e-commerce, but a relevant previous role was with the Valiram Group in Malaysia, where I worked with brands like Kate Spade, Tumi, Michael Kors to launch their Asian digital, both e-commerce and CRM initiatives.
So guys, given that you've come in and you're trying to digitize very large successful businesses that have been running in a specific way, and you're trying to bring in modern technology, in this run-up to making these businesses omni-channel, and in the process of it, any lessons, any examples that you could share that sort of have been coming through, and challenges as well?
So from Home Centre's point of view, the challenge is trying to understand where we've come from really in relation to the market. So what I was alluding to before was by operating in 11 different countries, you've also got to understand how your business connects to your markets and your customers. So whilst you're trying to innovate and bring digital in from the front end, you've got to have an eye on the back end. So for me personally, and my background's also been supply chain, is if you don't have a good handle on your infrastructure, on your IT obviously, but also the way you move inventory around, all that you gain at the front end, you will lose from the back end. I'm not even talking here about profitability. Because fundamentally, and we've heard a lot the last 2 days about being obsessed about your customer, about be forward-looking, be bold, be ambitious, go after it, and it's not a choice. You have to go towards digital. Those companies that will succeed will integrate it some way. But if you don't somehow sort out your supply chain and your stock, no matter where that customer wants it, because for me, omni-channel has to be seamless. So I'm not even talking multi-channel. For me, it has to be omni-channel. Okay, and with a large retailer like we are with huge stores, because we have 60,000 square feet stores, these are larger stores. How do I extend the catalogue? How do I deliver the promise? And that, for me, as a more traditional private label retailer, is key to actually unleashing the power of omni-channel, which is back to basics, but at the same time embracing the future.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. For us, it was more about thinking from a technology perspective, what do we do and how do we take this business forward? The first decision we made is, listen, we want to make sure that CRM is at the front and center of everything we do. For us to understand our customers, the only way we're going to be able to drive analytics, which is going to drive our business. So from learnings is when you're going to embark on this journey, leave aside whatever's a front end facing. I agree with you completely. Bring to forefront, there's 2 things. There's customer management and there's inventory management. The easier part is customer management. How do you bring that into the forefront of the business? How do you acquire customer, and what's the data you're deriving out of that CRM program? And then you can overlay your e-commerce or omni-channel experience. The CRM part has been the easier part of the business. The single inventory across, we're a multi-branded business, and we're a brand of brands. We have 150 brands. So to try and get that one single view of what the inventory is, to truly get to that omni-channel experience is challenging, but we're getting there. And for us, the buy online, pick up at store, which is happening now in Q3, is a big part of the strategy. And what we're certainly doing today is 50% of our orders are being fulfilled from stores for all e-commerce sales, which is a big achievement for us just in this whole overall experience.
Sure. So both of you saying that, look, there are two pillars to omnichannel. One is the single view of the customer itself. They're agnostic. I mean, millennials and youngers are pretty agnostic of how they interact with the brand. The second part is the single view of the merchandise itself. So how do you see technology playing a role in this? Because speed is, of course, of a necessity, I think, in the fast fashion business or the home business. Yep. So what do you think about technologies like RFID or just real-time data analytics? How are you bringing in or thinking about some of those technologies coming into your business?
So it's a very interesting point. So at the moment, the tension is obviously reaching out to the future and understanding the customers. So through the technology and understanding it, we are currently now trialing a number of things that we're learning from. So we've brought in, actually this month, mobile POS into store. We're actually looking at 3D graphics to be able to help customers decide how their rooms. You take a picture of your room, you bring it to our software, and we'll make your room through our products. So we're trying to embrace and learn from this, and it is a journey. It's not, we are learning, and we are trying to be a leading aspect within this region and bring value to our customers, not just through the product, but through the experience. At the same time, you have to have one eye on, well, where are the things I must make sure I do not let the customer down? So that's very simple. When do I get my product? Will it be arrived on time? And will you fulfill 100% the order I've placed? Now, the advantage we have at Home Centre is that we have large ticket items, sofas, beds, etc. So the pressure's on, but at the same time, we can actually learn on how they shop and how much time. So 30% of our customers consider, through technology, how they're going to purchase, whether it's through online or offline. But what I want to do is make sure that that seamless purchase happens in such a way that we know what the inventory position actually truly is. And that's the bit you just alluded to. And I fundamentally believe that things like RFID, which is the next phase of game changer within retail going forward, those retailers that crack that will actually then have the best value to make sure that what they're saying up front, whether it be through mobile, whether it be through in store, they know what the stock position is exactly, so they can't let the customer down. And that, for me, is one of the hidden, if you like, ammunition that we as retailers need to have to be able to make sure that we stay relevant and don't let the customers down.
Sure. I think for us, which is a different concept altogether, we've started experimenting with order management systems that live between our legacy systems and our web fronts. And that's what we have to do. We come from businesses which have been around for 25 years, legacy systems which are very tough to untangle. So we're looking at what can we overlay on top. So we've overlaid CRM on top as one of the big things. We've overlaid an order management system to give us that real-time sense and kind of get every 30 minutes an update of what's happened in stores, so that our web store is most up to date. It's a faster moving business, so we need updates every 30 minutes. We've been successful at it. It's more about, from a business perspective, how do we want to orchestrate these orders? Are they coming from a store? Are they coming from a warehouse? And what is the most efficient way from a supply chain to fulfill it? Indonesia has 13,000 islands, I think that's the number. We're present in 62 cities, but we're fulfilling to over 200 cities. At what point, there are certain places that the cost of shipping is higher than the cost of the product. So at what point do we use this order management system and this data to fulfill orders from a closer location to save on that shipping cost and effectively make the business more optimized?
Yeah, sure. And when you're embarking upon a change that rolls such high technology adoption, moving it from the legacy systems, how important is it an organizational change as well, a cultural change as well? So not just from a tech perspective, but right from top down, or right at the senior most management, down to empowering the person on the store floor itself. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think the culture and the organization of the company is actually critical to making this success. I think, first of all, if the senior management, and in my case, the CEO doesn't carry it and believe in it, then there's no chance of it really carrying it through. The other aspect, I believe quite strongly, is in this world, analytics as such, no matter what it is, whether it's to do with customer-facing analytics or whether just looking at your business to measure things, that actually helps you to build your argument and build your case. And I think if I look into Home Centre, one of the things we have to look at is about the people and our talent. We've got to make sure our people understand maths. If they can't read numbers, if they can't understand and do an analysis, then actually they've not got the right skill sets. So we're actually changing also the profile of our people to match now the new world we're living in. And that is becoming a real challenge. And obviously in the Middle East, not only have you the challenge of most people have to speak at least 2 languages, but we're also asking for this mindset around your analytical ability to come up with good decision making, so eventually we can turn it into real retail plans and implement what we want to do. So the landscape is changing, and I think that's also very important in the culture of the company.
Yeah, mathematicians are going to take over the world soon, right? Change management is very tough. In an organization like us, we have a lot of trouble. There's legacy heads of business units who I fight with every single day in terms of, omni-channel is their way forward. Don't think about e-commerce as a separate business. It's an extension of what you do. From a people perspective, the training is critical. I agree. Mathematics. What we're trying to do as a business is make sure that everyone across each department is representing their business with 5 critical numbers. For example, supply chain for us is what percentage of our orders can be delivered between 24 hours, which is critical to us in the areas that we can reach. From a pure marketing is what's the ROI on every single dollar we spend. On a customer services, what is the percentage of calls that we can actually close out or emails on the first interaction. So analytics is critical. We're trying to build an organization where every leader I have reporting into me reports 5 metrics into me, and that's the only way we can keep them honest. Change management upwards continues to be tough, but I suppose that's normal in most organizations at this time.
Sure. Guys, any regional examples, any category examples that you can share? You've been big advocates of analytics and mathematics and looking at numbers and having KPIs. And I'm going to put you on the spot. You've taken these 2 categories in emerging markets where the dynamics of the population and the buying patterns are changing. And, you as large businesses are reacting to it by having e-commerce strategies. How have you seen the adoption of multi-brand fashion in your case and home and furniture specifically as a category in terms of adoption online?
So Home Centre's experience on online is just about a year. So we're not sort of professing to be mastering it, and we're still obviously learning. But it's very interesting operating in this region because what you see is, from my perspective, and I don't think we talked enough about it at this conference about what's going on in the Middle East, and I think they're embracing technology extremely fast here, particularly our, if you like, customer group profile, which is about 25 to 40-year-olds, and particularly ladies and families. And they're embracing the whole mobile phone, they're embracing the iPads, and for them, leisure is the mall. So we are very much in that shopping experience in that space. And e-commerce is now, for me, just an extension of how we do our trading from our stores. So, for example, at the moment, we're trialing, if you can imagine furniture, come and test it, come and feel it, but why not have it in multiple colors? But we can't have 10, for example, colors of the same sofa on display. But we could maybe have the 2 most popular, and the rest are online, and you could look at the swaps and touch it. But then the critical point is obviously delivery and availability and fulfillment. So you have to break it all down, and I think we're just really getting to grips. Now, we happen to be one of the leading companies because not many people are online in our segment. In fact, the only one I can quote that's also online is IKEA. So the 2 of us are really fighting and setting the standard and the actual ambition here. But we are still in that space of learning. But the great thing we have, and I think it's a landmark great achievement, is we have one of the biggest loyalty programs called Shukran, which some of you may have heard, with 12 million members. And we have about 80% of our customers that are Shukran members. So we've got already a gold mine of analytics to be able to go and look at, to understand their spending patterns. And we talk about CVM, actually, customer value management. And we can now look at how many of our customers also shop in other brands within the group and do special offers or tie up, actually to target them and enticing them to come back and to maybe spend because they haven't been for a while. So we can do far more what I call intelligent targeted marketing rather than doing a simple advert and hope that to touch as many people.
Yeah, I mean, back to your point, we launched the loyalty program in January, and we've managed to acquire close to 250,000 customers already. What's interesting for our market is mobility is going to play a key role. A research that we did showed us that 80% of customers actually wanted a physical card. What we did is we incentivized customers to actually take a digital card, and it turned around. It was actually 80% of the people opting in for a digital card. I think the success for us is having both businesses under one leader, which is CRM and e-commerce, because we're looking at the business from an omni-channel perspective. We know exactly what customers are buying at what concepts. We know what their ATVs are. We know what their UPTs are. We know what their frequency is. We've been able to see in such a short time a 20% contribution in 3 months of all our sales coming from these 250,000 registered customers. So I think for us, from a success story, it's to talk about MAP, which was always a brand of brands, and now it's developing MAP as a brand. So we have MAP eMall and MAP Club. We're going to drive one single mobile app. So that means that from June onwards, a customer will use one single MAP app to either use anything to do with their loyalty program, view points, view statements, and in the same app being able to purchase from MAP eMall. So really merge those two businesses. It's what's going to give us the competitive edge over all our competitors, and especially through with the pure play players in the fashion category.
Sure. That just leads me to the next question. Who is the competition? When you look at that, there's pure play guys. There's people like IKEA moving into these geographies. You're a multi-brand. Is it competition between the brands itself? You're a private label. How do you define that? Are there any specific things you do to monitor them? How do you even define competition with shrinking boundaries? Everyone's ready to ship anywhere where the consumer sits. You said you've got 62 locations, but you're shipping to a lot more cities than that. How do you even go about defining who competition is?
So competition is complex. We all know roughly who we're watching. What our biggest problem is, being the leader in the Middle East, is you actually have to stay fresh, you have to stay relevant, you have to keep up with speed, you have to make sure that you're looking forward and looking backwards, because they'll catch you up otherwise. And I think the way I look at it is to actually try and break down which categories are the relevant player, rather than one particular competitor. And I'm more worried about what we do than what the competition do. And that really is how, at the moment, we've got to lead our business. Having said that, I think the one area today that I'm more concerned about, as the Middle East in particular becomes more and more mature as a market, is pricing. And I think fundamentally, when we were looking at Intelligent Node and looking at some of the work we're doing, is how do we establish where our brand is in relation to price in the market, and how can we work with the analytics to understand what we have to do to make sure that we're very relevant on price, that we are correctly positioned, and that we know what's going on. Now, being the forefront of digital also means that our prices are more viewed, if you like, and more transparent from those competitors that are not online, if you like. So actually, we're taking a risk, but if we can drive and we can be one step ahead, I think that risk will pay off, as long as we keep focusing.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's the pure play. The Rocket Group companies, we distribute all our brands exclusively in our market, but many of these brands are seeing that going to marketplaces gives them a far wider reach, and it's a completely different view 5 years ago. If you went to Mango, which is a good example, and said, listen, would you go on a marketplace? They'd say never. Now they're selling to marketplace because they're getting smarter. I think if I were in a brand shoes, I'd want to see what's the widest range, how can I get my product to my customer the best way possible. We look at pure play as the number one competition for us. We want to differentiate ourselves in multiple ways. Being an omni-channel retailer, we look at 2,000 locations. That's potentially 2,000 fulfillment centers. We're doing that from 60 stores already. So that's one differentiator for us. The second one is our loyalty program. You have a very successful program which you've run for many, many years. We're just starting, but seeing the success and the ease of acquiring customers, and I think it was the panel previous to us talking about data. As long as everything is relevant and we're able to deliver the right information, it's going to get us happier customers. It's going to take down our marketing dollars. And our cost per acquisition, which is ultimately the number that I have to keep in mind every day, is going to come down with those two things. So pure play is our biggest competition. We use Sanjeev's tool very effectively because we don't see our internal brands as competitors yet because we're still under 1% of our total sales. That will change in the next year or so. But it gives us a really good idea for two things. Number one is we're fulfilling from stores right now, I'd say about 50% of our orders. When does it make sense for us to actually start stocking product for a better delivery? And what is the right price and what is the right discount? So those are the things we're doing with Sanjeev's tool. And I think we're in a good place right now to get the right cost per acquisition, which is the key number.
And where's the focus forward? Do you see mobile? I mean, it's being spoken about, but is it real? Do you see traction coming through? Do you invest heavily behind it? Is it tackling deliveries for furniture specifically? Is it tackling returns as the market matures in a fashion environment? Where do you place your bets and where's sort of your immediate technology focus on?
I think you've got to tackle it in a number of areas. To be honest, customers themselves are investing in smartphones and iPads, etc. So they're sort of arming themselves with the tools, even to the fact that in this region, soon you're going to be able to pay with your mobile phone at the checkout. So the question I've got for the future in Home Centre is, do we need checkouts? What's the best way to do shopping of furniture in stores? And I think the exciting thing is we're asking the right questions today and we're doing the thinking. Now, if we can then start in the different areas of the company connecting all the dots, so that, for example, the guys in the warehouse, and just to put you into perspective, we have 4 million square feet of footage for stores, but we also have about 3.9 million square footage of warehouse. So how do I unleash the power of the warehousing infrastructure to actually drive more sales? And of course, omnichannel gives me that option and that possibility. So I think we've got to invest in everything from whether it's captors, whether it's technology, in every aspect of the business to make sure that we understand what's going on, measure it, to what you were saying before, to actually then analytically understand, so what do we do with it, and then get the talent and the people in the business to actually take that forward. Because if we don't answer the so what, we'll have lost everything we've invested in, even whether it's up front or back end. So it's now becoming a real sort of cross-functional way of working in a new digital age.
Right. For us, it's three key things. Number one is mobility. We don't have a mobile app. It's launching in the next 2 weeks. We're seeing 65% to 70% of our traffic coming from mobile. So mobile apps is a big focus. The second thing is supply chain. Whilst we're not investing in creating our own supply chain, which is a lot of what the pure plays are doing to get further control, it's really understanding how we can leverage next day deliveries and the current malls we have non-performing assets in all malls. Can we convert those into fulfillment centers? We've taken a basement in one of the main malls in Jakarta right now and actually fulfilling from there same day. We've managed to get 20% of the orders out in the same day. So that next day wow experience is something we want to invest to, not by building our supply chain, but by really looking at what are the focus areas like basements of malls, non-performing spaces that we can convert into fulfillment centers. And the third one is payment. We're actually launching a digital wallet probably Q3 this year. So it's integrated with the mobile phone, so mobile app. So we're saying Map Club, Map eMall, and Map Pay is all going to be on one single platform. And that's what we're going to drive as a branding experience. So those are our three focus points.
Okay, great. So typically I see when heavy technology comes in and digitization comes in, the consumer, you getting traffic through mobile apps, the one person that gets overlooked is the person on the store whose commissions are dependent upon driving sales through the store itself. How do you measure lost sales? How do you empower that person on the storefront to remain competitive, given that you have a very large business on that side? One thing is using them as fulfillment centers. Any other success stories that come out, any other investments that you're thinking of?
Sure. So this was previous experience in Europe, then coming into the Middle East. And what I've realized, and I could see from the way we were setting ourselves up to trade online and from stores, is that we had to be careful that we didn't create a new competitor, which was a home center online versus a home center offline. And the way that I positioned this, and I promised the store staff, was that whatever we take that is not inside their stores would be attributed back to their stores. So that wouldn't affect their bonus, their commission, etc. And then, of course, that got complete and utter engagement from the staff. Now, there's still things you can do to improve that. And I think going back to the omnichannel challenge is making sure that your staff are part of that. Because at the end of the day, they are the image and they are the people who make it successful. And that's how we're looking at it from not just from a technical point of view, but also from pure management, pure leadership, because it's the people aspect, I'm sorry to say this, that's more important than the technical aspect in the omnichannel journey for me, and understanding the consumer behavior.
Completely agree. We've for everything which is store fulfillment, we're maintaining the store incentive we call, but it's a far more important piece that we need to address, and we as a company haven't been able to do it yet. You know, I believe number one is we need to start looking purely at stores from different KPIs and incentivize them. It's acquisition of staff, it's repeat business acquisition of customers, percentage repeat business, and really flow that top down so that everybody's engaged. And there has to be a metric which I haven't figured out yet, which has to be in a certain region, which we can certainly analyze. We have to contribute that sale to a store because, you know, we're a 99% offline retailer. Our stores are set up, and if somebody buys online, chances are, as numbers have been said, 60% have interacted with that product offline. So for me, that's the next challenge, and we certainly want to address that soon.
So you're trying to empower the whole showrooming. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing for people who've gone omni-channel, right? That's where you can experience the product, that's where you can touch it, feel it, and maybe convert on a mobile app or...
But means business is more complicated. So give an example that, given the nature of the environment we're here, I believe that we're missing out about 15% of our potential sales online because we haven't yet managed to get our site completely Arabic in language. So we're relying on English. And we know from our customer research that many of our customers would rather we actually had an Arabic language interface. And it's all those little points of detail that matter to the customer and make it more personal, make it more local and relevant for them. So we've still got a lot to do in making sure that we get to the right level of standard that's required.
And those things are going to change your conversion rate by a 0.1%, which as traffic goes up makes a lot of a difference. We have a dual site. We've seen that a different dynamics for a country, but 95% is coming from the Indonesian. For us as a business, it's really how we optimize the conversion. I think the Google gentleman was talking about, somebody else was talking about, you know, stores have a conversion rate at some areas of 25%. E-commerce is anywhere between a 0.5 to 2%. 2% is considered successful. How do you optimize that conversion online and effectively do the same thing offline?
So there's a lot going on. There's a lot that you two have done. There's a lot that is in the pipeline. There's clear focus areas. For people who are looking to adopt technology now, looking to adopt analytics now, any sort of success stories, any key processes, how do you even measure the ROI on something in technology that you're investing in today? When do you see results? Analytics that you're crunching all this data, you're bringing in the big data, but you're actually about the small data out of it. Actionable insights, but how do you measure those insights for a business like yours?
So I think there's different levels. I think there's the long-term or medium-term investments that have to get finance on board and crunch those numbers and make sure that it all sits within the right legal and governance and frameworks to make sure that it's the right level of investment required. And they're the heavy projects. But at the same time, there are some short-term quick wins that analytics can do. So if I go back to the loyalty program, when we started looking at the data that was coming out, just by doing targeted marketing campaigns on texting and other things, we were able to convert an enormous amount of customers which we'd overlooked before to get them to come back because it was a targeted spend. So in terms of return on investment, it was a no-brainer. It was, you know, stop spending on some of the traditional marketing and advertising channels where you had no control and no ROI, and actually start putting the money where you could see direct returns. So we're all still trying to learn. It is breaking the models that are traditional, but actually at the bottom line is there are some returns that are faster in terms of payback because it's not all just about technology.
I think the technology is a black hole. It can just go into different directions, especially if there isn't an experienced leader who understands. You know, there's different e-commerce technologies, there's order management system, there's product information management, there's analytics, there's just too much going on out there. I think the first step for retailers is to actually say, listen, what is my potential revenue from now to 5 years? Because that's the extent a front end is actually going to last. Things are going to evolve very quickly. You've got mobility. And once you understand what that is take a step back and start building from the back end. People frequently make the mistake of going and saying, oh, you know what, I think Hybris is the best e-commerce site and I'm going to build that out, and forgets, listen, I need an order management system, I need a CRM to integrate with that, I need a product information management tool, and that's how projects typically get delayed and go over budget. So my recommendation is there's a lot which is good out there today, and there's a lot of SaaS-based products which are good. Take a step back, understand what your 5-year plan is, what you can actually do, and what's the revenue you're going to get there, and start from the back, and then end up with your front end at the end. That's my advice.
Yeah, sure. Before we open up the floor for questions, one key success story, any example that you've been very proud of while driving, anything that you love to leave everyone here with?
One I'd like just the success is, look, things like furniture does sell really quickly online, and you've only got to look at other companies like Williams & Soner in America, that 50% of their sales are online. They're not from store, just on big ticket items. So it's not about the old books and CDs, it's big ticket items, okay? And I think on the other side, my recommendation is, the golden nugget is sort your inventory out, sort your supply chain, particularly in this region, otherwise everything you do front will just collapse.
Yeah. For me, two things. I think the fact that we're fulfilling from 60 stores for half of our orders today is a big success story for us, which means that we haven't had to do separate buys. So that works very well for us. And the second one is 60% of our orders are coming outside the main province of Jakarta, which is where I'd say 60% of our concentration of stores is. So that means that we've been able, with e-commerce, to get out there and sell product. Our fashion business is very concentrated on Jakarta and the surroundings. Getting that product out to different regions where we don't have a brick and mortar presence.
Sure. We'll just open the floor out for any last couple of questions. Sure.
My question refers to what you started with, that nothing can really happen without having worked on the back end and the omni-channel being the start of everything. What does it take for a big retailer to take that investment, and what kind of talent do you have to have? Because both yourselves are the CEOs and vice president of the organization. Who did you hire? How did you do it? Did you do it from outside or is it from within?
Sure, no, it's a great question. I think the first thing is you need to get one leader who's given the autonomy to actually drive the business. That's the first thing. There's a significant investment, we're talking about millions of dollars. You need to figure out the right team structure from an omni-channel business, especially from an e-commerce, is you need supply chain expertise, somebody who understands it. Doesn't need to come from e-commerce, but understands supply chain, because as you rightfully said, that's going to kill you. The second thing is you need experienced marketing people. The third thing is web ops. People tend to forget web ops is the front, your shop front, what you do. So I think those are the three key hires together with technology. One interesting question that gets thrown around with technology leaders is, would you insource it or would you outsource it? My clear answer is, if you're a retailer, outsource it. If you're a technology company, insource it. Because managing talent in technology, it's the best place to be right now. Mathematicians and technology people, especially developers, coders, definitely get a right CTO for your business, but don't, especially in the first couple of years, don't insource that. It's a couple of $1 million minimum, and you have to be ready to lose money for 3 to 4 years before you start seeing some returns.
I think a lot of what's just been said is very true. I think just a little bit of difference for Home Centre is that I think there are a point in your history and your DNA where you have to connect with the people that are very good in the business and get them to be the change agents. Because if they get it and believe in it, you can easily then go and get the experts to complement those teams. And if you can build the right winning teams to deliver and give them the purpose and give them support and give them the backing, the rest will follow. And seeing customers delighted, seeing mini victories that you celebrate on the way speeds up the whole process. So there is talent out there. You have to put a bit of money into it. Obviously, it doesn't just come for free. But the other thing is you've got to act fast. I mean, I think we're still partly late in this region. But the great thing about this region is when we put our minds to things, we take everybody else and we lead. So Dubai hasn't achieved what it's Dubai if it wasn't as acting and as fast as it is. And I think there's some great people in this region that can prove the world a few things.
Great. Any other questions? No, great. Look, thank you so much, gentlemen. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.